Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, a.k.a. Caliban, and if you've ever worked at a convention booth, you know Boimler did nothing wrong. Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to Discoverage.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back here again, and I like the Kelvin timeline, J.J. Abrams lens flare you've got going on there.
Lens flare. It faded a bit. It was worse earlier, but we're getting into the fall in Minnesota. It's so dark at 8 p.m. I haven't got like a good winter setup going yet.
Yep. What would that look like? More
a winter setup,
ring lights,
less,
nice.
Yeah, more ring lights, less flares, less shadows.
Yeah.
More just warm, cozy. You know, my old apartment had all the candles behind me.
Yeah.
Very lots of vibes.
Yeah,
we're working on it.
There's nothing super special about my setup here, but I did have to change light bulbs after one went out, and I noticed that like the wattage and the temperature, and also whether it's fluorescent or incandescent, makes a huge difference. You know, suddenly it was like super dark, like we were doing this from the dungeon or something, which could be a good look for us. I don't know.
It could be. It could add some intrigue.
Yeah, possibly.
But I'm a warm light girly, so that's where we're always at.
Yeah, let's keep the intrigue at a minimum. Normally at this point, normally we've been talking about the Rings of Power, but I haven't seen the most recent episode, so I can't talk about it. But
it was so good.
Okay, all right.
Are you watching House of Dragon?
I haven't seen I've had a busy week. I haven't seen anything.
Okay,
I haven't seen Andor. I haven't seen She-Hulk. I've seen nothing. So I've seen a bunch of movies that I'll be talking about on other podcasts. Oh, I saw Star Trek 2009, and I talked about that with a longtime friend and guest of the show, a guy named Alan Gratz. And so we'll be talking about that on an upcoming episode of Enterprising Individuals. But no, I am totally out of the loop on all the shows.
So I have two things to say. The first thing is that that's so funny because I just was thinking like this week, I was like, I wonder if I say that for my birthday party, we're watching Star Trek 2009, that I can force all of my friends to watch Star Trek 2009. That's number one.
It's not a force. Would it be force?
It's a party.
It's the Star Trek movie that like hardcore Trekkies like, right? So there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have fun.
And then the second thing I have to say is that for me personally, this last episode of House of the Dragon took like all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones out back and shot it. So,
okay. Well,
and Rings of Power was also amazing, but okay. I was particularly shook by House of the Dragon. But this is a Star Trek show.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, it is. But Star Trek is part of this new golden age of TV, the platinum age, whatever's better than gold.
Yeah, I'm feeling very platinum age because it's like I don't remember until Star Trek Discovery, obviously. I feel like the last time that I was watching a show weekly and not like watching streaming something was like the early seasons of The Walking Dead, and not even then because I was like when The Walking Dead started airing, I was like a little too young, like I wasn't really into like zombies or like horror yet.
Yeah.
And now I was thinking about that this week because I was like, we really have Star Trek every Thursday.
Yeah.
I watch Rings of Power every Friday. I watch House of the Dragon every Sunday, and those are standing dates with one of my roommates. Like, I show up late to other events because I have to watch those TV shows first.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy. Well, and then you have like again, Marvel fan, and I do, Loki was big for me. I watch the Marvel shows weekly, usually.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It's like I've never watched that many TV shows. Like I've never been actively keeping up with that many TV shows ever in my life.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because for a while there, it seemed like it was all going to be binging forever, and of course Netflix, the sort of advanced guard as far as the binging property goes, is still doing that. But everybody else who's trying to come in now is doing things weekly. So, I'm used to weekly TV from way back in the day, but I can imagine people getting into their shows and their properties, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm going to binge it." Wait a minute, now it's like I got to be around on Thursday if I want to, be able to talk about the show on Friday. They're kind of bringing that back and kind of forcing that the slower pace of watching it. So it doesn't hurt me at all, but I wonder how some people deal with that. I'm just sad that Better Call Saul's off now, and I really like that one. And it didn't win any Emmys, which I'm mad about. But apparently that creator is working with one of the stars on the show. They're going to do another show. So yeah, I'm happy.
Oh, interesting.
Everything's great. Yeah. Good time to be a TV fan. Movies? I don't know. If you like drama.
If you're not seeing Don't Worry, Darling?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you like drama, the movie's perfect. But otherwise. Ted Lasso won the Emmy. So who knows?
I like Ted Lasso.
Yeah, but would you call all the performances best and best supporting actor performances? Is it an Emmy show? It's fun.
I feel like it's honestly, and I watched the Emmys, and this is a week and a half ago, so now we're really pushing the depths of my, memory.
Yeah.
It's about 2 weeks. But I felt like its only real competitor was, and there were some shows that I haven't seen, but I felt like its only real competitor was Succession.
Yeah.
And
that one big too. Yeah.
Yeah, even that I feel like Succession sometimes is a little bit more one note than Ted Lasso is.
Okay.
Succession is very each of the characters is very I feel like they have their thing and they kind of do that thing and they do it amazing.
Yeah.
But I think they get maybe a little bit more range within their genre for Ted Lasso. I don't know.
Okay. I've never seen Ted Lasso. I feel like I get it, but one of these days I have to sit down and watch it, and I can see the whole thing because it's going to end with the next season, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that they even are doing the third season.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm stoked. But yeah, I'm sure that it'll end after the third season.
Not designed to be, I guess, a long-running thing. I've also been watching, since we're just talking about TV now, For All Mankind, which I know it's been out for a while, but I've been catching up on that on Apple Plus and really liking it. And when people talk about wanting Star Trek to feel like the Star Trek they remember, just follow the creators, follow Ronald D. Moore and all the Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica writers he's got on that show. And it's an alternate history, historical NASA show about Earth astronauts, but it's got sci-fi elements and it just feels like a Star Trek kind of thing. So been really enjoying that as well. Also not winning any awards, so can't win, but
also I feel like awards are when
Star Trek never wins awards. Exactly. Who cares? Yeah.
It's I don't watch an award. I watch an award show because it's the pomp and circumstance is fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I watched the Queen's funeral because that was fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that was maybe more historical than the Emmys, but it's I'm not watching it because I think they're actually choosing the best show. With Peace and Love, I have watched after the Emmys. I was I guess I gotta watch Abbott Elementary. Watched every single episode.
Okay.
Respectfully, no clue why that won. So anyway.
Huh. Interesting. Haven't seen that one
idea
either.
At all.
Okay. Interesting. I just watch award shows. Yeah. I watch award shows to see who's going to get served with papers, during the show. So.
and it all comes back around to Harry Styles, just like I planned.
Watch the Queen's funeral, see who's going to get taken away by the beefeaters. We've been watching Star Trek, and we've just seen the 5th episode of the 3rd season of Lower Decks. It's an episode called Reflections, and we're here to reflect on it. But first, as always, a warning, we're setting a course for the spoiler zone listeners, so be warned, we're happy that you've decided to join us, but spoilers are incoming. The official synopsis for Reflections is, Mariner and Boimler work the Starfleet recruitment booth at an alien job fair, and Rutherford challenges himself. This episode was written by Mike McMahon and was directed by Michael Mullen. And the stardate for this episode is 58354.2. And that's about all there is to say technically. What did you think about Reflections?
I loved it. I think it's my second favorite this season so
okay.
far.
All right.
First being last week.
Uh-huh.
But I thought it was so much fun, and I was missing. I thought right as this episode started, I was like, I need some good, I need some friendship moments.
Yeah.
And I felt like we got that from this episode. And
in
it was
spades.
Also
yeah,
per usual, so amazing, so fun. For a second, I was like, I don't know, have they told us which episode number is the crossover?
No. I don't think so.
So for a second this episode, I was like, oh, it's happening. And I was like home alone. And I was like, I can't do this.
Right.
It's like, I can't do it alone. And then I was like, oh, is it the mirror universe? But I love that it was like something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it wasn't like a callback. It was like, oh, so, you know, it's like his past memories of this implant, which I love that we get to like unlock a mystery, unlock a tragic backstory.
Yeah.
With Rutherford.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had so much fun. How about you?
It was an interesting twist on, you know, an evil character or a different version of a character that we know, and then using the literal device of his brain implant to sort of bring that back. Like my title would have been Regarding Rutherford, like the Harrison Ford movie Regarding Henry, where he used to be a jerk and then he got shot in the face and became a nice guy. That's how that works. And so to have that be the way that they are sort of evincing these ideas about him having grown, I thought was really great. Also, like, it is kind of, you know, it's a mirror type thing, like a mirror episode, but it's not a mirror because when he looks at his reflection is the other way around, right? His implant is on the same side or on a different side. No, same side as when he looks in the mirror. So he's not seeing an actual mirror. I mean, he's still seeing like, Rutherford's like trapped inside the thing, but he's not like seeing a reflection because he would be reversed. When he punches his head, he's getting it on that side. So I thought that was an interesting choice by the animators and the writers. Sometimes I write things down like when I'm sitting and waiting for the show to start. And in my notes, I wrote that I feel like it's time for the show to be about something rather than just, you know, making us laugh and talking, you know, showing our love for Star Trek. And like this thing kicked in with this kind of meta plot or this sort of like dropping these hints that there's something sinister about Rutherford that I thought was like, that's interesting. Again, and we've talked about this on past weeks. I don't know if it's a comedy show idea, but it's something to grow on, something to build maybe. And we've also talked about, speaking of like two halves of somebody's personality, like the show is, are you a funny show or are you a Star Trek show that's going to do kind of more serious things? And it seems like they're really like kind of turning into that more story-based thing tonight. The job fair runner was funny, but you know, we learned a lot about Rutherford, and I'm wondering if that, what the payoff to that will be, and if we will see things like that for other characters. I thought one of my favorite episodes of, I think what was last season, right, was the episode where we learn about Tendi, and she and Mariner have their adventure, and she kind of finds out about her backstory and where she came from. It's things that she's not necessarily, like, she doesn't want people to know. And so, I don't know, like, I don't want the show to be, quote unquote, less funny, but there are enticing things that they're presenting to us every once in a while about these characters that I think that we could really get into. Like Towel Guy. What's up with Towel Guy? Is there going to be a payoff to this Towel Guy runner? I feel like he's been in every episode with his little towel. And he's like, oh, whoa, so get my towel on. And it's like, well, how's that going to pay off?
You know, you can replicate a bigger towel.
Yeah, right.
I love any scene. This might be shallow of me. Any scene where they're in those bunks in the hallway, I know is going to be killer.
Yeah.
Anyone, at the second a scene starts and somebody's in a bunk, I'm like, yes, every time. Yeah. I love that so much.
Rutherford wakes up from this dream, which is a memory, I guess we find out. And I was thinking, because I pointed this out on some other episode that I talked about somewhere else, about how Star Trek doesn't often tell stories through like dreams or flashbacks. You know, the clock is always kind of moving forward on Star Trek because I think it is generally presented in a very straightforward style. You know, technically these are like logs, right? There's a star date, and the star date kind of always goes up because it's sort of like you're recounting this thing, you know, ex post facto. And so there's nothing wrong with that, but I just thought it was interesting to like open on this, you know, dream of this traumatic event that's kind of bothering him. I wonder, do you think that, much like Regarding Henry, do you think that there was a choice, whether conscious or unconscious, by Rutherford to become a more kind of well-rounded and relaxed guy? Or did that just get kind of blown out of him, you know, through brain damage or through brain replacement? Because he was kind of like he was kind of like a rough and tumble kind of guy, and then he just becomes, maybe not overnight, but presumably, a nicer guy. A guy who he looks back on and goes, oh boy, I don't like this guy. Who is this?
That's a good question. It's like a reverse. It's like when you get too many concussions and you like turn evil.
Oh God.
It's like the reverse of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Troubled.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to say people with CTE are evil, but I understand what you mean. Yeah, their behavior is
You
affected.
change fundamentally as
you don't,
a person.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams doesn't know what he's talking about when he wrote that movie regarding Henry. People don't get nicer when they're... Phineas Gage is the perfect example. He got a rod through his brain. He became an asshole.
I was thinking, it's funny that you went right to Phineas Gage and I went right to O.J. Simpson.
Oh, well, that too. Yeah. Yeah, that didn't work out.
Some could say that it did work out.
Well, well, okay. I'm not saying that he should be running around free today.
Hi,
but,
this is my favorite murder. And I'm Karen Kilgariff. What was the question? Do I think that Weatherford, how did he get nice?
Yeah, he's different now, and we like the new Rutherford, but I wonder if it was part of a process of recovery, or if they... Well, I think now it's time to talk about the shadowy figures, right? Would it behoove the shadowy? Yeah. Would it behoove the shadowy figures to load, nice guy 1.1 into him to take suspicion away from him? Because that's
how they made me.
If you just put like a cyber brain in the old Rutherford, he's gonna get in another space wreck. He's gonna end up in a hospital somewhere. People are gonna find out about whatever this thing is that they've done.
I guess, but he's lost his memories, right? So maybe he had trauma that made him angry.
Oh, and maybe that part of him was erased
and made him want to be a pod racer.
That's interesting.
And now,
that's interesting. The way that
they've lifted that weight from his shoulders.
Yeah. The way that
they've removed they've cured mental illness.
Well, yeah, it reminds me of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where Jim Carrey's character, who is not like a super happy guy, but he breaks up with this girl Clementine, and he wants them to erase all the Clementine memories from his brain. But also, there's some other memories, like his mother used to bathe him when he was a baby, and she would sing "You're my darling Clementine" to him, and he has to lose that memory too. And so I think there's a suggestion that the kind of weird insular person that he has become is even more so, because not only have they taken the memory of Kate Winslet, but they've taken these warmer memories from his childhood as well. So that's interesting that he could be somebody who was troubled, and we don't know if that's just the way he is or if something happened to him. But then losing those things made him yeah, I just like engineering. Yeah, I'm into engineering. That's interesting.
Yeah, they took it away, and now he's just happy to be here. You know what I mean?
Sure. Do it to me. Where do I
know.
Where do I sign up?
Where's my wipe?
Is that outpatient, or how do we?
Yeah, can we get the pass? Just maybe the lockdown.
Yeah.
I get that just yoinked. I feel like there is going to be a big follow-up. I feel like there's going to be, and I feel like maybe other characters would be involved. I feel like this has to be a B plot going forwards in at least one more, and I'm hoping kind of more episodes, because like you said, I feel like they're kind of tiptoeing around something bigger this season. They're not quite... There's something in these first few episodes that I think we both felt like they weren't quite committing to something.
Yeah. And
I wonder if we're going to see if this is going to be more we're going to see more of it for the rest of the season. I don't know. I would love to find out, like you said, the shadowy figures, because the dude in the middle has to be somebody we know. I think the two side guys, I think they're just faceless Starfleet scientists. But the dude in the middle, I feel like which I don't remember now how many rank pips the guy had on, but
I don't remember. I was trying to listen to their voices to see if they sounded famous. Yeah.
Me too. I feel like my gut instinct is that it wasn't like a captain's. Am I being crazy? I feel like it was less than 4.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I don't think they know the audience is smart, and so I think if it's something that they want to keep secret, they wouldn't tip their hand like that. And oh my God, Tom Hanks!
Yeah.
Tom Hanks is all over the place. Show up on Star Trek. Go for it.
They'd put a voice effect on that. They wouldn't just have like
Right. Yeah.
Riker or somebody just talking out.
Oh my God. Yeah.
They know
Riker.
people. That was my first thought. That was my immediate
Rip his
first
brain
thought.
out.
It was Riker.
Yeah.
Rip his brain out.
So that was an interesting part of the episode. Let's talk about the job fair. I suppose they must exist. It's kind of funny that they would have to, staff this booth, but I suppose when you're trying to recruit somebody, you need to see a human face and the human touch. There a lot has been made, or at least a lot was made initially when this show first came out, about the kind of jokes that Lower Decks would be doing, about Star Trek. And it's almost like they took all of the jokes that maybe they felt like they couldn't do or were on the no-no list and went, let's just put them in the mouth of this character who's like, Starfleet, oh, look, it's Starfleet, everybody. And so we're getting all these like interesting kind of Starfleet critiques about how, you're a pseudo Navy. Sure. Okay. You're not a military.
The only thing that was missing
Take off
was
that uniform. Oh, you're not a military. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I thought that was kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. What happened to punching down? Like that's, I mean, I like that stuff. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's funny also that that was the stuff that made Boimler kind of snap and then go ham on everybody.
I also Boimler didn't snap though until somebody yanked his rank pin.
Oh, that's true.
Like a personal. That's like he's so like that's my personal accomplishment.
Yeah,
I am an ensign, and how dare you?
Yeah. But like stuff like, the uniforms are great. Well, how come you've had like 5 or 6 different changes in the last 8 years or whatever? It's like, what?
Starfleet's always looking for improvement.
Yeah. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I also thought that, what was I going to say? I also thought that having that character was, okay, so that character is supposed to be like Vash, right? Whoever the actress is that plays Vash is like, I don't want to do. They probably would have had her back, right? But she's like, I don't do that. So it was like a Vash type character who's gonna talk about. Starfleet, sure. Hey, do you like being Borg? Join up with Starfleet.
Lady Indiana Jones. Lady Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Lady Indiana Space Jones.
But it's all. See, now, wouldn't that be? I kind of like, what's that character's name? Petra Aberdeen or something like that.
Yeah.
I kind of like that character. I hope she comes back. But if you want to jam, if you want to jam the outrageous Okana into everything, that should have been the outrageous Okana, right? The whole booth is just a blind for the heist that he's going to do, where he gets the Grand Negus's staff, right? But whatever. It was a nice character. Yeah, and then also there was like it was almost like the animators had the day off, because Lower Decks is no secret, they love references to other stuff. But it's like, let's just do a bunch of references in dialogue. So we'll have a bunch of characters come up and they'll all just talk about stuff, which are things that are kind of open jokes or questions. So they're like, oh, here come the conspiracy freaks, and they're like, hey, what happened when those bugs, climbed into your butts? And like, they were like, and the guy's neck's going like this. Well, what about that? And it's just like, okay, yeah. I mean, normally they would just, I guess this isn't Family Guy, so we're not going to cut away to, Remick sitting in a chair like, get a lozenge? And then come back. But they just like listed off like a bunch of things instead of like drawing them or showing them in the background. I thought that was like, that's another way to do it. References in dialogue.
You know what's funny though, is I feel like that really replicated like working a booth at a convention,
where people just come up and try to stump you and ask questions,
or like somebody being like, oh boy, here come the conspiracy, the truthers, and you're like, who's here?
Right. Yeah.
And then something's happening before you can.
That is something about working at a booth. Like, whatever you think you're prepared for, there is a person out there who has been carrying a question with them their entire life, as if only to give it to you, and you have no idea what they're talking about, and you're like, maybe that's true. And you're just like,
it's also like,
why this?
Like good and bad things. It's like when we were at Chicago, it was like, Yeah, okay, I'm sitting here and I'm watching Doug Jones like hug every person over his table over there, and then someone's like, "Hey, there's a drag queen performing. Did you know that?" And I'm like, "There's a performing a Star Trek stuff, huh?" And then Erin McDonald's like on the mic, and I can't hear anything because she's saying like amazing thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
and then someone's like, "Oh boy, here comes," you know?
Yeah. I just thought the idea of like, random Tellarite walking up, eating something, and they're like, Starfleet, huh? They're like, yeah. Oh, yeah, we got all kinds of stuff. We got this in Starfleet, we got this in Starfleet. They're like, huh. I just kind of walk away, and you're like, that was my A pitch for nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Or like
had the
literally,
feeling many
this
times.
is way more relevant. Literally, the way that I met Mike McMahon as I walked up to my boss Frage, and he was talking to somebody. Everyone's got masks on, and Brad. And I said something to Frage, and then I turned and kind of was like, "There's one where I was like, oh, I don't know these people," and Mike went, "Hi, I'm Mike McMahon," and like went like this, but it was like his hand was out before he said his name. So I was shaking his hand, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Mike McMahon," and I was like, like that's really just all that. I was like, oh man,
Great.
like just the chaos of the Starfleet job booth.
Yeah,
really, yeah.
Stop
like,
trapping people
and I
inside
turned,
of
he's like,
games.
yeah, he's like, "Hey, I'm Brad," and I was like, "Oh my god, okay, cool."
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, thumbs up from me on that scene. I think I totally believed
Yeah,
it.
that was funny. I also loved when Boimler snapped.
Yeah, he just flips the table over.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course we have the hey, what the hell? Third act. Let's have a legal space drag race with a great message. Little corny. He brings all the friends in at the end, but like it's his fantasy. He can do whatever he wants. And why build a Delta Flyer if you're not going to fill those other 3 seats? You know what I mean? The saddest Delta Flyer trip is 7 of 9 just by herself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You got to get everybody else in the seats complaining about Neelix's cooking or whatever. And so we've got that. Now, Rutherford in his sunny disposition, he might have imagined his friends a little more well even keeled as far as their behavior and their performance goes. If that was the real Lower Decks crew, they'd be like, what are we doing? And like, trying to hit buttons and get everything done. But his real strength is his friends, and he recognizes that.
Yeah, it was funny for me, like today, it's like, specifically this week, I've been like, I miss my friends. Like I'm at that age where people are still like leaving to go, like come home for the summer and then go back to like grad school.
Yeah.
And even if they live here, they're going to grad school, they're like busy. And so I'm just like sitting here watching Star Trek. And so I start the episode, I was like, oh boy, like, I miss my friends.
Yeah.
Mike McMahon, he did it again.
He did it again. It's like his hand was out before he even said anything. He got you one more time.
He knew again, and he'll get me again, and he'll get me again.
That should be his bit. Is he just when he sees you, he just introduces himself, just says nothing else, just turns around, and walks away. Anything else that you wanted to say about this episode?
I don't think so. I have no notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Fantastic,
I don't really either. I thought it was really,
loved it.
It was fairly strong.
Yeah, solid. Can't wait for next week. Per usual. Can't wait for next week. Strong stuff from Lower Decks. Always. Only.
Yeah, I think they've hit their stride. I'm trying to think of other things that I would say. I would just be repeating references and jokes and stuff like that, probably. I hope that... So do you think... Okay, here you go. Here's one. We see a spore plant. I guess the spore plant's from this side of paradise. Do you think that is just a Lower Decks visual reference, or is that going to come back in some way? Why does Tendi have a spore plant in the honeycomb hideout?
I would love for it to come back. I think that I'm not holding my breath, because they love just like a little bleep, you know?
Yeah.
A little blip, I should say, because they also love a little bleep, but a little blip of something that we recognize. Maybe
they are doing a sort of homage to other Crazy Gas or Mirror episodes with that. It's not a mirror universe thing, but sees himself in a mirror. We see, the wacky spores I wonder what other references would there be where somebody sort of loses their mind or something like that. I'm not really sure. Maybe that's what it was. They're like, we're doing a brain swap or an evil person episode, so let's get some of the references in there. Maybe that's what it was. I like the fact that it just, I didn't check the timing, but was it like shooting, like whenever somebody got kind of close to it, which is kind of what it does in the TOS episodes. They're like, oh, check it out. Oh, it's nice. Oh, yeah, nice. It's kind of like, nice. When it sees your eyes, it fires. I think that's about it. Other than he was very rude to that Trill officer, whose name he didn't know. So he's like, hey, Trill. Which don't call it
brutal.
Trill. They don't like that. Well, I think that's it for us for this week. Another solid episode, and we give it thumbs up. And thanks for joining us, listeners, to hear us talk about it. If you like what you hear, us talking about it, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTpod to get notified when this show, Discoverage, is live and broadcasting. Also, when our main show, Enterprising Individuals, when those episodes come out. You can tweet to us on the show using the hashtag Discoverage or email us at EISTPOD@gmail.com. And while you're on the internet, head to your listening platform of choice and subscribe to our show. Give us a rating and a review, too, because that really helps us out. Discoverage will return next week, September 29th, for the 6th episode of the 3rd season of Lower Decks. We don't know the title of that episode yet, but we'll be here next Thursday to cover it. We'll be going live once again around 8 p.m. Central, so join us then. You could follow us on Facebook or Twitter at EISTPOD to get notified when we're live and broadcasting. In the meantime, why not check out our main show, Enterprising Individuals, at enterprisingindividuals.com. Every Wednesday on the show, I and a special guest discuss in excruciating detail a selected episode from a Star Trek series. This year, we're covering the movies on the show, and our most recent episode where I speak with Sasha Wood of the YouTube channel Casually Comics about Star Trek Insurrection is still available. And while I have you here, I want to take a moment to talk about our other Star Trek podcast on the network. It's called Backtrekking, and on it, we look at the real-world inspirations behind classic episodes of Star Trek. Our latest episode comes out today, and on it, we're talking about the DS9 episode, Nor the Battle to the Strong, where Jake Sisko gets caught in a battle between the Federation and the Klingons, and we're comparing it with the classic American novel that inspired the story, The Red Badge of Courage. So, war is hell, high school English is hell. Jake's going to find out the hard way. You can find that episode at Backtrekking on Twitter or wherever you get your podcasts. Ella, thanks as always for joining me to talk about Star Trek Lower Decks, and remind people where they can find you online.
My personal accounts are all Gondor Gold, so feel free to follow me there. Otherwise, I'll shout out Star Trek Unlimited this week. The summer is wrapping up, it's over. It's the end of September. Summer's over, which means I have a lot more free time on my hands, including like during the day. So I am going to start. I've got some clips to post. I've got TikToks to post. I've got things to say.
Great.
I'm bored, so I'll be on there.
Yeah, all right, so check that out. Of course, it's Hobbit Day today as well, so hug your Hobbit, because you never know. What's that supposed to mean? You can find me on Twitter.
They might get left behind in the caravan.
Yeah, they might get sucked into a quest to Mount Doom. Who knows? I'm on Twitter at @KA1IBAN, and you can find all of the shows on the Just Enough Trope Network at Just Enough Trope on Twitter. And that is it for us for this week. We will see you soon, and until then, keep on trekking.